is he blocks his opponent's natural with a hatchery and then takes his own hatchery at the gold.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant, because usually a hatch block is already quite good, but now he has the gold mining really fast. So relative to a regular scenario, it's way better. We didn't do the math, but this is what we concluded after thinking about it. It's like it feels better. I'm like, I think mathematically it sounded. So I was like, really? I'm like, I have no clue, buddy. Like,
amazing. Well, there's the drone going to hatch block.
Yeah, it's good. It's gonna take the gold, man. That's what he does.
Does that mean that Stats' hatch block just doesn't matter as well?
Yeah, because he takes the gold, so he's gonna.
Yeah.
I think he's supposed to build hatch first at the gold, and then he blocks afterwards. Now there is a hard counter to this build, which is sending a probe down earlier than you need to. So if you usually we send the 19th probe down. If you send the 18th probe down, then this complete strategy falls apart. There's a thin line here that Reynor is walking, and God is he walking it well. But yeah, okay, Stats sends the 19th probe down, so Reynor's gonna get the hatch block in, and now, according to our mathematical skill, this game just ended. It's over. It doesn't actually matter anymore what's gonna happen from this point on, Wardy, because this game officially has ended. He can pull workers all he wants. He can build a zealot, a cybercore. You're actually supposed to pull 5 workers, if I recall correctly, and do it as fast as possible. I once discussed this with Drogo, and I was like, do you just pull 5 workers? He's like, no, you pull 5 workers very, very quick. I'm like, yeah, that's what I mean. He's like, no, you don't understand. They have to be there really fast. I'm like, all right, buddy. Relax there. We have Stats. He's gonna... That wasn't a fast pull. Like, Drogo right now is eating himself up watching this. I can feel it. We have an Adept being Chrono boosted. Is he gonna get the Evo? No. This is pink. He usually gets the Evo. You get the Evo to delay for like 5 more seconds. Not the biggest of deals, but it's just funny, you know?
just makes your opponent feel even worse.
Yeah. Like the income is actually... Look at this. It's actually quite sick. Another thing you can do, by the way, is you can build a hatchery in the main base. That stuff really confuses your opponent. Is not quite sure if it's good or not. Like, this kind of stuff actually isn't figured out at all with the hatch block, you know? Like, Cats probably has a lot of theories about it, but even he would probably say that he's not quite sure about what is best everywhere, you know? Like, he'll probably say, I think this is good in this situation, but I'm oh my freaking joking. Is this Warcraft 3?
Oh, wow.
He doesn't actually kill it. I think that was mismicroed afterwards, but that was really freaking sick.
Damn. Reynol's just styling, man. You know, Stats is undefeated in this group, and he's just, he's getting styled on by Reynor a little bit with the build, the micro.
He's getting a lot of links, by the way.
11.
Oh, I'd consider that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I was just putting a number to a lot, that was all.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, I think he could have gotten that, but he doesn't. Adept escapes. It's gonna be a little bit scary for Stats here. Like, what's really happening behind it? He isn't aware if there's even a natural at this point. He's gonna play the glaive build. I mean, the income for Reynor is looking absolutely insane, right? And he's been up in income for quite a while. So even if his drone count is lower, that's completely fine. Like, his money is gonna be tight. You know, that's really the only thing that matters. It's always difficult in this type of situation to do a build that is supposedly very, very tight.
Yeah.
Because when do you get the gates? Like, he's getting a battery now. That's gonna ruin the build order at least a little bit, I assume. It's gonna delay something, but what is it delaying? You're not gonna get the double Adept warp in that you usually want. There's a Rose Warren on the way, a Spine on the 3rd base. I love that Spine, because that Spine's gonna be able to defend the back of the mineral line as well, and that's really what's very important in this case.
Yeah, really just adds a lot of, you know, harassment against those Adepts, makes their life so much more difficult when they have a pretty specific job they need to do, and now it's even harder to get done. As Reynor goes into land, no roaches just yet, though. So, I guess, I mean, first round of Adept warp-ins is okay with just Lings, but wants to make sure he starts them up around now so they're ready for the next wave of Adepts.
his position is actually so good. You're not supposed to be able to get a layer yet. He's playing double gas as well. Usually you do this with one gas, but those gold minerals, it just means that on a lower drone count, you can just afford way more, right? The only thing you need to keep in mind is that once these gold minerals run out, all of a sudden you're gonna need the drones. So what happens a lot is where you'll see Zergs, they stay on like 50 drones, they have good income, and then their gold starts running out, and they're like, oh crap, now all of a sudden I need to spend 20 larva on drones. That's not really what I wanted, right? So it's just something to keep in mind there. We see the shade. He might finish it actually. Yeah, he's gonna finish that. It's gonna need to be a drone pool here coming out of Reynor.
Ooh, now they got the prism as well. Just gets away. That means the prism actually brings those other adepts back, so the other adepts aren't really in a position anywhere right now. And Stats kind of waited a long time before shading these adepts from the main base, so he loses a couple of them. He will have 5.
Good recall.
Nice save. That's a really sick save, actually, as we see the rest of these adepts then. They'll join up underneath the prism, but Stats is just not getting the control of the game he was looking for with any of this, right? You know, you're meant to be running, you know, drones around all over, you're meant to be causing Reynor to chase them, and yeah, none of that's happening, right? So Stats in a bit of a weird spot. He'll clean out some creep spread, but yeah, no third base or anything. He's in a rough place.
He's in a terrible position, Wardy. Let's be real here. I mean, the income for Reynor is just better at this point because of their gold. It's not supposed to be like that. These adepts in the middle of the map might just die. I mean, they're shading forward aggressively. There's a spine there. A couple of adepts shading into the next roll. They will get a couple of workers. But he's also going to lose, and he's no recall. He just used the recall, so he's no recall. Which means if there's units in position to catch these adepts, there's no way in hell that Stats is ever going to take a third base. Lynx are moving in right now. Roaches are helping out as well. A little bit of a block, so the Lynx can't really get the surround that they want, but only 7 drones going down when you don't have a third base yet, and you lose all of your presence on the map. That ain't it, Wardy.
He needs so much more of this as the prison comes in with another round of adepts, but I mean, we're getting to a point where Reynor, if there was a third base, he'd be all in on top of it already, right? But there's no third base, so he's a little bit more passive, but he even has roach speed up already, and that's obviously something you don't usually see, so even these roaches get across the map so much faster.
I saw Stats started a Dark Shrine, and it was like, oh wait, the lair is done, and there's a spore in every base. Perhaps this is not going to be the play. It wasn't going to be the play. I mean, this is what I mentioned. If you lose all your adepts, like, it's nice you kill 7 workers, but good luck taking a third base ever in your life, basically. You see +1 range on the way, 8 more drones being built. I mean, Reynor's going to be up a base, up an upgrade, up in supply, and up in workers. Like, he is so far ahead at this point that he would need to start messing up some serious stuff in order to lose this game.
Yeah. These adepts in the main have been a bit more annoying than perhaps they wanted to. A couple of those drones got stuck as well, so that hurts as Queens will trade out transfusions. These other adepts going to go to the natural. I mean, again, these are like the adepts which are finally getting some damage. This is 10 workers killed off 4 to 8 adepts, I guess it was.
Yeah, that's actually not great for Reynor. This is the first move where I'm like, alright, Stats, we might actually have a chance here. The Disruptor provides some safety at home as well, especially against bigger roach counts. We see Reynor is going to be moving into what he calls the undefeatable strategy. Roach Ravager against any type of Glaive Adept opener has never lost him a game. His words, not mine. Once again, I don't really know how accurate these descriptions are of situations or of winning records, because if I have to believe him, he hasn't actually lost a game or a series in the past 3 years. So we always got to take everything with a grain of salt when Reynor talks about how good something is. But matter of the fact is, he has up 40 supply, he has +1, he has a pretty scary looking army. Now, here's the point where I'm like, you got to be careful, right? Your gold is starting to mine out. You're taking a third base. Your opponent is also taking it, or well, he's taking a fourth, but basically it's going to be a third because the gold is, I mean, there's 3 patches left. That's not everything in the world. So you got to be a bit careful here. And immediately he built 16 drones. I love that. I really love that play. And you could say, well, isn't this opponent pretty all in on 44, 46 workers? That's true, but Reynor really has nothing to fear. Like, what is Stats going to do? Walk across the map with 3 Disruptors and 2 Immortals? Yeah. I don't think he can ever win the game like that. If there's any amount of links, Disruptors just suck.
Yeah, no, They really are that kind of, save me right now, but I've got no future plan sort of unit, right? So just taking it one step at a time, and one step at a time right now is just slowly saturating his third. I mean, he doesn't even have full saturation on a third base yet. So as Reynor hits Bane Nest, he'll get Bane speed, and yeah, he's going to max out on an army that looks kind of unkillable for what Stats is playing with.
Yeah, it's... I'm not a big fan of this move out. I'm gonna be real here. I guess he's just trying to delay whatever it is that Stats is doing, waiting for baning speed, but he should be very, very careful here, because actually if 1 or 2 disruptor shots hit, this could get a little bit scary. A bit of a supply block as well for Reynor, with 18 banes on the way. My one point of criticism is going to be his lack of creep spread. I think he had a lot of time there. I'm sure there was always stuff happening, but I mean, there's only 1 tumor out from his gold base. That could be better, and I expect him to do better there as well at this level of play.
Well, the creep team is going down as Stats continues forward. He picks off a lot of that creep then as Roaches, Ravages, Lings continue to set up. The Banes will continue to waddle forward as well as the Disruptors. But he's going to have some Banes from the backside. He splits against the first Disruptor pretty well. The force fields aren't quite as good as they need to be. Oh, the Disruptors do get some juicy shots toward the end, though.
They get very, very good shots. This is way too good for Stats there. I don't understand why he fought without baning speed, and I said, well, what is he going to do? Just walk across the map with a couple of Disruptors and win the game? Well, apparently the answer is yes here, Wardy, because all of a sudden Reynor's in a little bit of trouble. He is still up in supply, but he needs to start getting a lot more careful with these fights. There's still 3 Disruptors in this army. There's no Disruptors coming out anymore, so...
I just feel like with +2 missiles and Bane speed done, obviously these fights start to look a bit different as well anyway, right? So yeah, if he gets another set of Disruptors like that, then that's going to be great, but I don't think Reynor really lets another set of Disruptors like that go off.
Oh my god, look at this Bane in play.
Oh! Wow.
Beautiful. That was really, really good.
Well handled.
He's gonna kill his own Immortal there. That Disruptor will die before it finishes up, and yeah, I guess the upgrades, the unit count, and the eco for Reynor are all just a little bit too good. So even though he took a really crappy fight there in the middle, he will still just manage to clean up Stats' army, and once again, Road Ravager does not lose.
Yep, continue to run in, and I mean, a couple of Disruptors might get a setup in a few moments. He'll back away from the super battery, obviously not a bad thing to wait for more Banelings to join the fray for this as well. And then Reynor might indeed just keep up that pressure still up in work as here Stats trying to take a 4th base, pretty adventurous up to the top right of the map. So he'll try and get that, and Prism on the map as well. It's all the right ideas, but Reynor does see that. I mean, he felt very close a couple times, but he sees the Prism. He's in position to kill the 4th, so the couple things that I like what Stats are doing, Reynor should have a pretty quick answer to.
Yeah, and the thing is, these things are cool if you have a solid defense at home, but right now I'm so worried for Stats dying that Force Element on the other side of the map might be the difference between barely staying alive and barely dying, and it looks like he's gonna get some pretty nasty hits here. His Banelings roll in, get a couple of workers already. The Prism on the other side of the map isn't actually doing anything, so not even going to be that useful. 13 workers go down. Reynor continues pounding on top of Stats, and yeah, Stats isn't taking it well.
Alright, lost 10 more workers at the end of this as well. As Stats cleans up, he killed off all the Ravages. I mean, those are nice little bits and pieces, but when you lose 23 workers, that cleanup doesn't really make as much, doesn't help you out as much anymore. If, he saves all his workers and just that, maybe there's some hope, but now his economy is, again, just hurting badly, and Reynor will not get the 4th base, so that will stay alive during this, as the Zealots are staying active on the map on the other side as well. Reynor's about to hit +1 melee. He's kind of rebuilt some of that Roach Ravager, and I mean, he's pretty much just ready to go for another fight where he's going to look to kill another 20 workers or something. Yeah, and I mean, if he kills another 20 workers now, then Stats is actually going to be at 30 workers. Before he was at 38, but yeah, the fact that Reynor's just adding 5 drones is something that I love so much, He knows he can probably win the game with the next push, but just in case, just sprinkle in a drone here and there and make sure that he gets to a drone count where this continued pressure doesn't actually take much of a toll on his bank or on his supply count. Top right base gets denied in the end, so Reynor finishes off the job that he started as he just does back away with the rest of the army in the middle. He is still dealing with, again, that prism of Stats across the map. But yeah, it's really a case of soon Stats' army is going to dry up, and it's just not going to be that great any longer.
Yeah, I mean, Stats is really hanging on to a rope that isn't even a rope anymore. It's like a fishing line, and Stats is way too heavy for a fishing line, my friend.
Can't reel him in. Who's even there to reel him in? Reynor.
Yeah, Raynor's at the top and he has a knife. He's just staring down, like reeling him in. I'm gonna cut it soon, my friend. Stats is hanging there. He has no clue what's gonna happen to him. He's trying to pull himself up, but it ain't working. Fishing line isn't made for that. Just slides down further and further. And yeah, I mean, +2 isn't done yet, so at least the probes won't die in one baneling hit. But I think the rest of the army might just, after this beautiful sandwich, super battery will get taken out by the vials. Banelings run in and... Oh, actually, Stats is doing a pretty decent job here, I'm surprised. You lose a couple of Ravagers, but 11 drones go down on the other side of the map as well.
I kind of felt like the Banelings just didn't get anything in the end, right? The Banes had like, they could have hit the mineral line, they could have hit the Stalkers, but then the Stalkers blinked, they went to go for the new Zealots, and they all died in that process. And they, I mean, obviously, there's like 28 probes they could have killed instead, so the Banes didn't deliver. And again, Reynor's economy is still perhaps good enough to deal with that, but you can't do that forever, otherwise Stats will probably be back in this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it was a bad fight, but we're still in a situation where Reynor is up 60 supply, and the only splash damage is an Archon, and it's like 4 Archons and a single Disruptor. So it's not like this is, you know, this is it. Reynor actually got a bit scared, and he started sending links down on the bottom of the map. It's like, wait a second, do you have a base down there? It's that moment where you're kind of styling on your opponent for so long that you forget to do the basics, and that's checking for bases. But now Reynor probably knows, okay, I'm going to be maxed again. I have 76 workers. I can just keep attacking, and if I just pound on this 4th base, eventually I'm going to get enough damage in. And Disruptor Shots do actually hit a fair amount. Super Battery once again trying to get some damage in, but more Banelings are rolling in. And at this point, I think with all the goodwill and the solid micro in the world, I think Stats agrees. GG's out as Reynor takes game number 1 after proxying a hatchery on his opponent's natural. For the series, be like, hey, can you tell me something about your preparation? And I always liked it, so I always tell him a bit, you know? And then I always wondered why casters just don't do that. And Todd, I think, he always was kind of clear about it as well. He didn't say, I have a feeling this is really good on the map. I think you'd be an absolute prick to do that. But he always say, I just talked with the guy before the game, you know? And then he'd explain what the guy told him, which I thought was a cool bit of background information. I always appreciated that from Todd at live events. I feel like if you want to be a real tryhard, though, you just pretend like you know so much. Like, I've been studying this guy for a couple of years. And yeah, I feel like on Everdream, he really likes to do stuff like this. And that's when you get the Apollo memes, you know, where Marine King opened with 4 racks and then went mech. Yeah. It's like you become that kind of level of caster in the eyes of the people. I think that's what you're supposed to do, Wardy. You have many friends in players, so... You could be the next Apollo if you wanted to. You're British as well.
I mean, you know, I feel like it just happened last week where chat suddenly decided to go off on me for bragging about knowing the players too well, so...
Yeah, exactly. That's why you pretend like you don't know them at all.
Yeah.
And you just have knowledge of their playstyle, you know? You become knowledgeable rather than a name dropper. Like, that's what you do, Wardy. Right now, you name drop. You go, yeah, Hearthstone, me and him, we go way back. Like, I know him well. This is one thing with name dropping that's always so sad to me. It's so obvious when you're doing it, you know?
Yeah.
It's the people that always try to insert names into conversation. For example, my friend X-Pekka, do you know him? He does that quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, that was just disgusting. And I remember being in some place and you telling me all the stories about him.
Yeah, he's a very good friend of mine. Him and I have loads of friends like him, you know? Like, just very famous. So. I think this might have gone over some people's head, but that's okay. All right, let's take a look at this game. As we have Stats versus Reynor. Stats managing to get the block off and going into 4-gate glaive.
You think this is definitely glaive?
make, right? It's a pretty standard build order. Now,
They like to duck
I always
shrines.
do a little game where I guess what timing the Protoss is gonna hit. What do you think, Wardy?
I think he's gonna go Dark Shrine.
He's gonna go Dark Shrine?
Yeah, can I make that prediction?
Yeah, that's allowed.
Okay, I'm probably wrong, but it's fun to be wrong sometimes.
But
I
he
know.
doesn't put out of gas after he built the Robo, so you might actually be right.
But then he just selected the Twilight Council, so I'm not sure. And now he pulls out a gas.
And now I put out a gas. Okay, you're wrong. Congratulations, Wardy. Now I still give you another chance to tell me when you believe his first warp in on the other side of the map is going to be. So the first time he warps in 4 adepts. If you tell me what that is going to be, I will, and you're within 2 seconds, I will gift a sub in your channel.
I'm not. I actually have no idea, like 4:45.
Oh my god, Wardy not knowing his timings at all.
I actually don't
This
know.
guy knows the players. No, it's gonna be closer to 424. Somewhere around 424 usually is a standard timing after a half flop. If we're talking about no scout, we're gonna move closer to 420. And anything after 428, I always feel like Toss might as well leave the game because honestly there's no use anymore. So we'll see exactly what he does. He's gonna get the 2 adept warp ins at home, and the second adept. Wait.
He lost an adept.
Oh, he lost an adept. Okay. So I think it was 406 where he warped in. 20-second cooldown on warp gate means we're gonna get like a 425, 426 warp in. Gets a battery in the wall. Needs to warp in 1 adept at home. That sucks. Okay, 425 warp in. That's decent enough, but it's only 6 adepts, which is 2 less than you usually have. He's gonna send that 1 adept that he warped in at home across the map. Stalker goes back into the wall. The Roach Warren. Oh, I think Reynor forgot his Roach Warren.
Yeah, it's so late. Usually you get that, what, 20 seconds ago, if not a bit before. This is obviously way later, so he's having to deal with even more adept warp-ins on this link count, and that shouldn't be pretty, because once these adepts get to that certain number, links just melt. Doesn't matter how many you have, you just can't get good enough surround with the amount of damage output coming out to really justify it. So
yeah, he needs to hold this ramp. This ramp is super important. I think Stats is afraid of roaches. He respects Reynor too much. There is a spine on the 3rd base. There's now 6 roaches on the way. Man, if Stats knew what he just missed, he absolutely missed the honeypot of links there. There was a lot of links, but I think he might have been able to just get on top of that ramp. We see 4 adept shading behind the 3rd base, which will be able to at least push away these drones. Ooh, the prism flying away there means these 4 adepts are not going to kill anything and just straight up die. Reynor's just defending this absolutely perfectly. Oh my god, this is painful to watch.
Yeah, the adepts in the main again massacred, and what they shade down to natural that's already evacuated into more lings and roaches. And Stats just lost every one of his adepts.
What the hell was this? Unit lost step. Stats is down 500 resources. 16 adepts have gone down. He killed 50 links, but oh my god, that's so bad for Stats. Dark Shrine is not more than a mere afterthought, it feels like at this point. Lair on the way, Spores on the way, Evo Chamber before seeing a 3rd race. Then you know a guy is feeling very confident here.
Yeah, I mean...
Once again, Reynor slightly getting caught out of position though by this prison.
Yeah, has to pull the drones away, units out of position, because his lings were across the map and they killed off a probe that was trying to build a 3rd, so that's nice, but that's a lot of lost mine time. That's an entire mineral line just out for this entire time, although Stats missed an adept pickup, so that's a shame. As more adepts shade into the natural.
And I understand what Stats is doing, right? He needs damage, but every time you sacrifice more adepts for damage, your 3rd base is getting delayed more and more. Like, even though he has the money ready for it, right now taking a 3rd base is something he can't really do because he would just die. He's gonna try it, but I feel like if Reynor starts moving across the map at this point, what is there to defend on the other side? I mean, there's 7 adepts. There's not that many roaches on the map. Maybe he will be able to hold for now.
Well, he's got some adepts out the front. They need to get back in this prism, of course, so the roaches catch those. And well, Reynor just happy to go into +1 missiles in the roach speed and set himself up for a little bit of a later setup here. The Stats getting the immortals up and trying to prepare for the next stage of this. But the thing is, Stats is getting immortals, but he hasn't actually prepared for anything, else, right? He never added on blink or charge, so he's just going to go with like an immortal adept attack. And Reynor doesn't quite know it. He's droning.
Yeah, but I feel like Reynor isn't too worried in general about this kind of stuff. Like he has 6 gas right now, so his Ravager count is going to be absolutely out of this world. It's not like this is super committed by stats, right? Anything that comes out of stats is it's going to be more of a poke or a prod, because he's on 58 workers already, which means that the gateway count isn't what it could be. Like his production is going to be lower, right? He's right now on what six gates. If you want to do a real push, he would be on 8 gates already. He'd have maybe 45 to 50 workers somewhere, but 60 workers really shows an intention to move into a longer game. With Blink, Immortals, +1, and he's gonna be down in upgrades. And once Reynor gets that middle base, like the Ravager count is gonna grow so much with that rich gas. And this is once again Reynor's famous Roach Ravager, which never lost a game. Except against Showtime on this map, but that one didn't count because he wasn't playing well.
Yeah. Is that new? Is that like a new filter for like if you ever lose a game, if you're not playing well, it doesn't count?
So, sometimes he'll just say that he wasn't feeling it. It's not even not players. I wasn't feeling it that day, Kevin.
Yeah.
Like, alright, buddy. We'll count it.
Well, it comes straight in here. A couple of force fields broken down by the Biles, and the sentry is already somewhat kind of stuck for energy, it feels like. Yeah, he has one more round of force fields on each sentry, so... I mean, Reynor is going to go around the other side, which is a bit more of an open area, and obviously on top of that robo facility, if you can fight there, it's also away from the shield barriers, so if you get rid of the robo, that's a huge start to this, and we'll see if he can. I mean, Stats does defend in a forward spot to push this away, but man, Reynor behind this burrow, +2, tunneling claws, extra drones going to 80 workers, so from him, this is basically just some light pressure.
Be honest here, Wardy. When's the last time you saw tunneling claws in the ZvP?
Kind of a while ago. I feel like maybe I saw one the last couple of days, and it was kind of crazy, but yeah, it's not a very common thing at all.
And you cast a lot of StarCraft, right?
I cast a lot of StarCraft. I'd say I probably cast it at most like twice in the last month. At most, right? So.
At most. This is from an expert at casting StarCraft. Oh! Ravagers get that. No, don't get the Prism. Stats is too fast once again. Now, Ravagers are just trying to get some free damage in with those Biles. 79 workers here for Reynor, who is also on double Evo. Carapace, +2. Burrow's about to finish up. The problem with the Burrow is that there's an observer just patrolling in front of the base. So, Reynor isn't actually waiting for the Burrow. He's just going to run in with these roaches into the natural while he's keeping Stats busy at the third base. Storm is about to finish up. Is there any Templar? There's 4 Templar. They're hiding in the natural mineral line. Oh my god, he clears
I mean...
the pylon at the robo and then he goes in. So there's no more observers. Meanwhile, he's pushing into the third as well, pushing back Stats. Battery overcharge being activated. What's happening, Wardy?
Yeah, I mean, there's roaches in the main, the cannon's staying alive in the main base, but there's also roaches behind the natural, which the Immortals are a bit slow to deal with. And a couple of storms did soften up Reynor's main army on the third base, so he's struggling over there, but it feels like Stats is struggling to keep on top of everywhere Reynor is at the moment, and yeah, obviously just keeping a lot of units out of position with those burrowed roaches, and I feel like he's trading okay. Stats, you can kind of see how it's affecting him. He's floating so much money. So definitely having an impact there, and walking into Corrosive Files. He tries to blink forward for this, but the Ravagers turn to fight. The Storm misses, and, well, I mean, Reynor is already maxed out to go again while building an Infestation Pit. And okay, Stats is making some steps forward, +2 in charge coming up, but just feels like Reynor's going to go again, and it's going to be really, really tough to hold this off.
The thing is against this style that sometimes it feels like you're capable of pushing out, and then there's going to be 22 Ravager, and in this case 13 Ravagers just delaying you at every step of the way. And while he's delaying you, there's another 10 roaches in your natural and another 5 at the third, and you're losing your fourth base to somehow 3 more roaches, which all of a sudden it feels like Zerg can produce 200 roaches just in 200 supply, but those days are luckily over. We see a bunch of roaches moving towards the fourth base. The rest of the army of Reynor returns back home to deal with the push out that Stats is doing. Fourth base does get cancelled, and right now we're 10 gas against 6. There's a couple of storms remaining, but these have to be some real money storms, I can tell you that much.
Not a bad start on the storms, but now he uses... Wow, he uses so many storms on those roaches on the back side. I don't really like it, although Reynor is starting to lose the third base mineral line, so the Stalker's there doing a good job. Another storm on the Roach Ravager, and Reynor is just not got anything on that third base, so it's gonna go down. That's obviously a big cost. Now he has a base in the bottom right as well as he burrows some roaches forward, but the Observer here, so they're not gonna do much, and I mean, Stats having a really good start to this.
Yeah, and I'm not even quite sure how. I mean, there's a lot of immortals here. The storms weren't great, though. Good prism micro here. Interesting blink forward is... Oh my god, he loses the prism, which means all of these immortals now are at the risk of dying.
Yeah, they're gonna get
about... Oh my god.
This felt like it was suddenly going good for Stats, but Reynor just turns it around, and yes, he loses a lot of drones in the process, but it's a complete reset for Stats, right? He loses all of the immortals, the Archons in the army. You kill a base, but like Reynor can just bounce back from them worker losses quite easily. He's already on 4 base versus 3 still. It just felt like losing so much at the end there kind of throws away everything that Stats have done well in this fight.
Yeah, now all of a sudden we have 3-2 upgrades on the way for Reynor. But yeah, that fight at the start looked pretty poor for our Zerg player. Somehow managed to turn it around.
Those roaches are Reynor going to peel away to the right side as he's going to go for a bit more multi-prong and again drone up behind this, but still making a good amount of Roach Ravager. Nice storms being available for Stats. That's massive. When, you know, these Ravagers are already half HP, it means it's very risky for them to move in. I don't think these forward Roaches are going to do much. Stats is way too aware of it and consistently in position to stop them from ever getting in again.
Yeah, that one observer at the front has seen so much already in his life. This guy is a real MVP of this game. Ooh, bad movement there by Reynor. He loses 2 Ravagers for that. The Roach went down as well, I believe. And somehow Reynor just managing to push out more supply than Stats. Stats, even though he's been having good fights again and again, really not capable of ever maxing out, it seems like, or even getting a 4th base for that matter. Right now his 3rd base is in a little bit of trouble. There is some Immortals there. Super Battery is not available.
Burst of Files kind of forces some of the army away. Reynor needs to find his way out of this, though, because if he gets trapped in by those Stalkers, it could be a little bit awkward for him, and now he is going to turn it into a fight where he chases those Stalkers down, pushing them back. The 4th base missing is the biggest issue of all, right? Because if it was a 4th base here for Stats, it's a little bit different. You can kind of afford to just absorb this damage, but, you know, we're 15 minutes in, the main base is gone, the Natural's on its way out, and you are really not mining anywhere near what you want to be mining. So even though Reynor's economy was weakened, it hasn't really had the impact Stats wanted to, and Stats now just lost an observer as well. And that means no observer on the map. Finally, these roaches could actually do something, but Reynor doesn't quite realize it yet.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, in absolute numbers, Reynor's income went down by a lot, but relatively speaking, I mean, we have Stats whose 3rd is basically mined out, or well, some of the minerals are gonna mine out there. The main is gone, the natural is half gone. Like, without a 4th base, he has no future in this game, and I think he's starting to realize it as he's desperately starting to get that 4th base. I'm not quite sure if he can defend it, though.
Roaches and Ravagers going to move through the center, the Overseer into the middle, couple Infestors in the back, and a Lurker Den dropping as well. Like the Lurker Den as a way for Reynor to kind of hit another layer of tech.
Sorry?
Do you like the Lurker Den, just as like a new layer of tech?
I feel like, yeah, I guess it's... I'm actually not sure. I mean, he has very good upgrades for range already, so perhaps it's good.
It's going to kill a 3rd base.
Broodlords perhaps isn't the answer, right? Because there's so many Stalkers already. Yeah. And your supply is always so high when you play Roaches. So in order to build a lot of Broodlords, you need a lot of empty supply, which provides a scary moment. I like the Infestors. I was going to say maybe an Infestor or 2. And I'm glad that it's there. I also like the Hydras being added in. Just gives this army a more complete feeling.
These Roaches obviously get traded out, but he's replacing them with Hydras. He got the 3rd base, so just as Stats gets to the 4th base, he's kind of kept back on, you know, 1 base eco. I mean, okay, the 3rd is obviously half minerals at this point, so the 4th is much better to keep alive, but it's still, you know, it's meant to be that little bit extra for Stats that just isn't quite as much as it should be, and right now he could do with a bit of anything, with Reynor taking all of these steps to continue teching up.
Yeah, Reynor has Seismic Spines on the way as well. I think he's going to push out before that, because if you're Reynor and whenever you basically you max out, if you have a roach-based army, you do want to fight, right? Because your army probably doesn't get much better than it currently is. I mean, you have maximum upgrades, perhaps without, well, no +3 carapace, but it's not the most important thing. You have maximum attack upgrades at least. Bell's almost hitting that observer. Nice little dance there by Stats. There's a couple of fungals available as well. I think in this case you just go back onto the 3rd base and you just cancel that again. I don't really see a way for Stats to defend that, honestly. I just don't see it happen. And with these fungals, Blink Stalker movement is very much much more difficult really than it was before. You know, just staying in, clearing 1 or 2 units and blinking back becomes a lot more risky if you can get hit by a fungal. So third base does fall, and we see a base trade here coming out of Stats. And that's interesting because he's gonna need to kill a lot of bases for this to be viable.
Yep, he's gonna go across the map, and I mean, what? There's just bases everywhere of Reynor, right? So what? It's a base for a base, but 1 base each is really gonna favor Reynor already from the start. Drops a fungal already as the lurkers trying to get down this ramp, walks into a big storm, loses the other infest as it drops a fungal on the stalkers, but Reynor not able to capitalize on any of those fungals so far. And that's maybe not quite how you wanted this to go. I mean, Stats able to force some awkward fights, but even still, that's not enough yet.
Yeah, that's not going to be enough. The thing is, he has a pretty big army, and his army is actually growing in quality as well. Like, it's getting better, like more immortals, less stalkers. He has some storms here as well. Reynor still has a decent bank, but this is still just a lot of ravagers really, which practically is just a dumb expensive roach. So immortals should do well against those. We see a Hydra burrow, complete army burrow actually out of Reynor, and even though Reynor is still up 40 in supply, his bank is completely empty. He's on 62 workers. Stats does have a 4th base and has quite some money in the bank. I wouldn't even mind for Stats to just try to disengage here, but I guess Reynor is not going to let that happen for now. Charge is coming in from the sides. I think Stats might be doing it.
Yeah, charge lots are really good to add in here as they do push this Reynor army back through the middle. A few lurkers of Reynor going to go up on the high ground, and Stats are staying in this. That 1/4 base helping him out so much, as now Reynor got this base bottom right. I mean, a couple of spines to maybe help him fight. It sounds crazy, but in this kind of fight, it actually might make a difference. And also, I think, okay, Stats has just now brought the extra High Templar, and I think that's really important because those few storms are going to be so important against what is now, you know, a very, you know, Hydra-heavy army. Lurkers get caught as they run around, so not the best start. And once more, Reynor's caught having to move through a ramp if he wants to fight here.
Yeah, this is looking very, very rough here for Reynor. He's getting some trades in, and don't forget, he's outmining his opponent. There's still 1 lurker remaining. There's 1 observer left as well. I wouldn't even mind if he gets an overseer, just start sniping observer. There's actually 2 more observers on the way, never mind. A terrible plan. I'm glad Reynor didn't do that. We have 5 more lurkers on the way right now. Upgrades, of course, still better for Reynor. Spine's repositioning, not done yet though. There's no storms left, and a very big stalker count, not that great against lurkers. Usually 3 lurkers in the back dishing out a lot of damage. Drones are being pulled as well. What's happening, Wardy?
He's gone a couple of lurkers further forwards, but I just don't think it's enough as Stats blinks in, and well, Reynor, he's got no units left past him. He's reproducing, and he has got reinforcements coming in. They are starting to maybe make the difference. I mean, it's just because Stats has so little left, right? So a few lings make the difference too. I mean, Hydras are pretty good in these kind of numbers as well when they can just dish out damage, and well, that's obviously not great getting blinked on. I think charge lots right now kind of feel very good as well, though, still.
Yeah, and there's only 1 observer left at this point. No, 2 observers. Where's that second observer? Oh, it's right there next to it. I completely missed that. Okay, lurker does die. That's a big thing. Single spine holding on. 19 workers have come down.
The stalkers on their own. I mean, the charge lots show up now. The stalkers are going to blink in to try and help those charge lots out. But Reynor's army supply is doubling what Stats has. Obviously, Reynor is still just... I mean, Stats has 46 pros, but he's only mining off 1 base. So he's actually only really on, what, like 20-ish pros? 25? A little bit around there is the Hydra and Burrows, and every little bit of micro right now counts. He's going to catch units as they warp in. He's going to get the prisms to no more warp ins. Reynor makes it happen, but what a way to draw it out from Stats until the very, very end.
What a sick game.